This is Sarah from Impact Data, and today I'm interviewing a bunch of experts about one of the most interesting things that I have seen happen in the gaming landscape for a number of years. We're talking to PredIGT today, which is one of the new solutions from IGT, and Impact Data and Buzz Consultants have worked on a trial over the summer that has some amazing results. The great news is today we're going to interview some of the people that were part of that trial and hear what their experience was with PredIGT. So I'd like to quickly introduce everyone. So as I mentioned, we're here today to talk about how we built the PredIGT platform and brought it to life, which is a new solution for venues. So our guests today to chat are Loyalty and Member Engagement, Marianne Doyle from Buzz Consultants. Hey, Marianne.
Hey, how are you, Sarah?
Good, good. Product Manager, Brad Lemon, who's a little under the weather today, so we'll be gentle with him. Hey, Brad.
Hey, how are we doing, everybody?
You poor thing, you do sound terrible. And some fantastic venue managers who have agreed to tell their story and share their experience, which is Terry Sheehan from Cherry Street. G'day, Terry.
G'day, Sarah.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, thank you. And Jamie Neal from Club Rivers.
How you going?
Good.
Venue manager, don't tell my boss, whatever you do.
Nothing, just between us guys. It's a safe spot here. So I'm going to moderate the chat and ask the questions today. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at Impact Data, and we were part of the group that put this trial together. So a little history of how we got here was that we understood from our partners, IGT, that PredIGT is a rules engine that actually does amazing stuff. And it had been around and everyone was talking about it. And Marianne and I were chatting and we're like, okay, what are we going to do from here? So Marianne, why don't you talk about what we did from this point and a little bit about yourself and your business?
Well, I'm Marianne Doyle. I'm the CEO of Buzz Consultants, and we are member engagement specialists. So over the last few years, we've really taken an attitude towards a digitized, personalized and informed experience for our members. So we're really trying to create not just a club message, but a message from the club to an individual. So really targeting what they like to do and how they like to spend their time in the club. And from the very inception from Buzz Consultants, we've always been about working with existing technologies and making the best of the technology and the investment that clubs have made. So really, we were hearing lots and lots of stuff about this, and we went, well, this is a perfect way to really engage with our members on a personal level. So we kind of started the conversations about how do we best go about bringing together this platform.
Absolutely. And it was a really exciting time when we started to define what we could do. And one of the challenges, which we'll talk to shortly, was there's so much in this platform, Brad. So tell us a little bit about what PredIGT is and what it can do for your venue.
Okay, so just following on from what Marianne was saying, what PredIGT is the ability to gather specific data on players and for players so that we can actually initiate that next level of conversation with them. If you break it down, that's what it comes to. Now, as with anything to do with gaming systems, and it's always been this way over the last 25, 30 years that we've all been involved in it, quite often there's a whole lot of information and it's hard to access or it's hard to define how to extract it out. To a certain extent, PredIGT, or sometimes referred to as DPR for dynamic player recognition, but marketing-wise we go with PredIGT. The ability of PredIGT to easily set up for people to be able to get those messages to players or information on the players to engage that reward segment is something that IGT started work on quite some years ago. Now, one of the problems that we've always come across with gaming systems is then we've got all this information and how do we use it? And that's where, particularly with this trial, having some specialists come in from Impact Data and Buzz Consulting showed, to an extent that really surprised me as well, the difference that you can make with this sort of data and this sort of communication with your players on what that can do for increasing your membership, which is a core basis for clubs and what we're trying to do, increasing membership and thus increasing revenue. So the story about PredIGT goes back quite some years, but the effective use of it, there's been little projects around the side, but this trial that we had last year and into early this year was something that we probably all wanted to see for some time, and the results that it delivered were actually far beyond expectations.
And what a great segue to introduce Terry, who can talk a little bit about what it meant, why Cherry Street got involved, probably a little bit of arm twisting from Marianne, but what it meant for you, and how did Cherry Street bring it to life?
Yeah, look, Terry Sheehan, General Manager at Cherry Street Sports up in the Northern Rivers of New South Wales. We're a club with 80 gaming machines. Marianne had an off-the-cuff chat to us in regards to this PredIGT. We're always looking for that bit of an edge over our competitor, being we've got a major competitor that's quite large in town. So we were always after a bit of a competitive edge. So it was a no-brainer for us to be a part of this trial, and it's proved very favourable for us.
And Terry, can I just ask, did you have a strong background at your venue in that personalised one-to-one communications before the PredIGT trial, or is that a real change?
Yeah, look, we do run our own loyalty system up here, which has been introduced with Marianne's help. But this was just the next level for us to go up the next level and really look after it, because it looks after our members, and it's but it's something that Marianne's really helped us drive. So it's been great.
Brilliant. Well, I might head over to you, Jamie, if I can, and ask you about what it meant to bring it to life in Club Rivers and how you got involved.
Hey guys, so I'm Jamie. I'm the gaming manager here at Club Rivers, running 208 gaming machines at the moment with 31 multis. So basically the reason it came about for us was it was something Marianne brought up as a trial basis. And we've had like limited experience with the DVR system before. It's something that we try to do ourselves. But because of the time that goes into it and the time it takes to track it and implement it and all that sort of stuff, and it's something we hadn't really dealt with, it never really got off the ground. So to have someone like Buzz come in and go, look, this is what we suggested what you're going to do. This is how much it could potentially cost you, and this is what we expect the return to be. They just basically dumbed it down for us, more or less. Like we got to a point where we're like, all right, so you're going to spend X amount. We're almost more confident now. We get the figures back going, all right, chuck a few extra bucks at it because we know it works. It's guaranteed to work. Yeah. It's really, really trackable. It shows you really quickly that you do miss certain players and certain thresholds that you're not quite thinking of. Everyone gets their top 500, whatever it is, afford every month. But there are those little sleeper players in there that you might not actually have the potential to recognize until someone comes along and goes, hey, we can set up an automatic reward for someone that does A, B, and C. And you're thinking about it yourself and you go, oh, we probably won't have many people that do that. And then it's not until you see the data and you go, wow, there's a lot of players hitting these low visit, high turnover, all that sort of stuff, thresholds. And then it's presented to you in a really easy format that you don't have to do anything. And it basically just makes you look good at your job.
I think that's a good point. But I think, Jamie, I think that's an excellent point. And where we're seeing, as Impact Data, we're communication specialists. So we look across hospitality, gaming, retail, you know, a wide variety of industries. And where we see the best results is where the business has a one-to-one relationship with me and my behavior. And sometimes in gaming venues, I think that can get lost in the fact that there's so much information, you know, there's so many systems in place. Finding those micro segments, finding those people between the tiers is a full-time analyst's job. And I think that's what PredIGT demonstrated to us, that we can actually attack those tiers and you know, those individual players and have a great experience for them without compromising all of the work we do in the major programs. Marianne, would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. So yeah, I think we'll talk about it a bit later on, but basically we were stunned. Like I had an idea as to where the successfulness of these programs would come, but like Brad said before, the results far outweighed our expectations.
Absolutely. So while I've got you chatting, Marianne, so from our perspective, Impact Data got involved as a partner of both Buzz and IGT, and our role was just to trigger messages. But we worked with you on the design of whom we should target. And can you talk a little bit about that and how that worked?
Yeah, for the trial, I really wanted to go about the proof in the pudding. So I really needed to try and find very different venues. So you just heard before, Terry is the Northern Rivers, 80 machines going against the bigger clubs in town. And Jamie's a Sydney Metro club, 200 plus machines, probably a bigger player in town. So then we also took it to the Central Coast and we took it out into the country areas, because I really wanted to say that no matter what we do, at some level, no matter how big or how small you are, what your demographic is, there is something here in this that can make your venue more successful.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I think the days of batch and blast communication strategies to your whole members, they're long since past, but I think we're ready. And I think you guys are perfect examples, Terry and Jamie, of venues that are ready to make that shift to a much more personalized relationship with clients. And have you seen that extended through your, the rest of your strategy?
For our venues? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Terry, do you want to?
Yeah, look, we have. The engagement we've had with it was just phenomenal. And as Jamie stated before, we actually can control the numbers now, and it's, our staff have jumped on board with it. There was a lot of training that went into it to ensure that, because it is a behind the scenes program, and our staff are sort of wondering, how is this all working? So we went into some extensive training with our staff and made sure the testing of the whole system, scanning of QR codes and the rewards, so that there was no hiccups at all. That was a key to our success up here, and our staff love it as well. They get a lot of recognition from the punter who says, "Oh, I've had a nice little win here," or so it's been really good.
I think that's a forgotten segment of our engagement programs, isn't it? Is our staff, right? And giving them the tools and the information firstly is really part of the strategy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's for sure. The staff are our key drivers up there on the floor, especially in the gaming room. So to have them all over this program as well was our main concern, and look, our staff took it up really easily, so it's great.
That's great. And Jamie, would you echo that, or were there some differences in your venue?
No, I think the biggest thing for us is myself and our CEO Paul have always been big on the personal experience has to come with an element of trust from the program. So when you first come out with QR codes and the staff and the members have never seen them, you've got to be confident that it's going to work first time. Because if you go up to someone and they have a QR code on their phone, and if this happened to me, I'd be exactly the same. If I had a free VB down the road, for whatever reason, I walk up to the bar and I scan it once and it doesn't work, you never get me with a QR code again, because I'm like, there's a fault in this.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing, like Brad said, is getting the staff on board, but also having the backup from Marianne and the guys at IGT and the guys at the POS systems, all that sort of stuff, to have the confidence to have someone you can call straight away to go, hey, there's something wrong with this, it's not working, can you check it? But we haven't had that issue because everything's been rolled out at such a gradual process, and everyone, the same thing, because it's a trial basis, everyone has that same buy-in of responsibility that you want it to work, you don't want it to fail. So I think the more you put into it and the more time and effort the venue itself is willing to give, you only get back more and more positive influence from Marianne and the guys, because they're willing to work as hard as you are to get it to work. But if you're not willing to put in the time and the effort, then you're wasting your time. Because like I said, people will just try these things at a will, willy-nilly, and don't put the effort into it. And as soon as it doesn't work, you lose the customer forever. So I think that's the biggest thing for us, is realizing that, yeah, it is a really good system. And the guys on the other end are happy to put the effort in. So like Brad said, you've got to get to your staff, make sure they're all aware. So there is no gaps in it, and then it's reliable.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, is plan. And Marianne and I love that word. You need to plan to plan, right? You need to figure out what your objectives are and work through that. But Brad, before we leave this question, can I just ask, is there any particular system requirements from IGT venues for PredIGT that we need to let people know about?
Not particularly, no. With the installation that we have out there at the moment, and COVID was actually an opportunity for IGT to, we actually have all of our venues up to the most current version of software, which has never happened in history before. There is actually two exceptions, actually. Jamie's venue being one of them. We have two venues on HTML5, so they are one step ahead of everybody else. But those two aside, we have everybody up to the same venue. And every one of our venues with IGT Advantage Club at the current point in time can run PredIGT. There's no other extra servers or requirements that are needed to make that run. Everybody that's out there now with an installation of Advantage Club can take advantage of using PredIGT.
Fantastic. So from an impact data perspective, we'll talk to anyone, but more importantly, what we did learn as part of the trial was that the point of sale integration for voucher redemption was more successful potentially than kiosks. They were a little bit of a throttle. So where we like to work is where your point of sale system is integrated into your gaming and voucher management and all of that sort of system. So that is all of the big guys, Swift, POS, BPOS, SendPOS, H&L, you know, the whole lot. So the good news is, I think almost every venue that we have spoken to is definitely a prospect for this trial, right, Marianne?
Yes, definitely. We've got really good working relationships with all the POSs that you just said, and they've been fantastic in getting the integrations up to date so that we can have full 360 reporting on all of that.
Which is very, very important. So moving on to our next question, and you know, let's be honest, one of the things, impact data, we have data scientists in our business, and the one thing that they tell me all the time is if you're not prepared to fail, then you won't actually learn. So you actually have to put it on the line sometimes and be prepared to fail. So let's talk about what was the most challenging part of the trial. And Jamie, we might start with you.
The biggest thing for us was definitely customer education. A lot of our members are in that older demographic bracket, not used to seeing digital vouchers and all that sort of stuff. Again, not having when it's something unfamiliar, they don't trust it. So the biggest thing for us was making sure that we were prepared and the staff were ready with the information to confidently say, hey, this is what this does. I can show you how to use it. Have you tried it? Do you know why you've triggered it? It's a regular thing. It's nothing to be worried about. Alternatively, if you had a Nokia 3210 brick, we had a system in place where we could add the points to your card and you could just do it that way. That was really the only issue we had. The staff were all about it because our staff is a lot younger in terms of average age of our frontline staff might be in that young 20s, 22, 23 bracket. Whereas our membership base, our main demographic for our players is 65-year-old women.
Yep.
And a lot of language barriers and that sort of stuff came up, but because you were prepared for it, that was the only real issue we had, was getting them to understand that, look, I know you don't have an iPhone or whatever it is, we can still help you out. Yep. Don't freak out. It's not something that you need to be worried about. This is a really positive thing. And as soon as they get it, they're like, oh, I completely understand this now. And it gets people to come in and update their details and all that sort of stuff, which was, at the end of the day, was a bit of a grind at the start to get it to where it needed to be, but it should have been done in the first place. So it wasn't really a problem. It was probably the challenge of getting the time to do that. But it's obviously worked out a lot better now that we're however long, 6-8 months in.
Yeah, absolutely. And Terry, what about you? What would be the most challenging thought from the venue?
Yeah, look, after I convinced the Finance and Fund Police that it was a way to, it certainly, once we convinced it that we were happy with the control of the expenses that this was going to be, it was that member getting it sold to the members, making sure it was right before it went out to the members, making sure we had the right information to give to the members before they, because as Jamie was saying, if they're going to get a QR code without knowing what it is, they're going to be very nervous about opening it, and if it is wrong, if it fails on the first attempt, you've pretty much lost them. So it was nervous times to make sure that it was right, but that was the challenging part. But once we got it out there and launched it, our staff were all over it. They'd be able to talk to our members about it, and we didn't see a problem after that. So it was great.
Brilliant. And Marianne, what about from Buzz Connects? What was perhaps one of the most challenging parts?
From Buzz, and I think you were part of this as well as Ben from IGT, I think for us it was trying to figure out where to start and how to slice and dice this. Because from a Buzz point of view, we are forever trained that we're trying to look for what's individual about a club and create a program and engagement strategy around something that's different. So for us, we had to completely flip that on their head and go, what is going to work across all demographics and what is going to be the common rather than the unique. And like Brad said before, this program is just so huge in the way that you can slice, dice and reward. It was really the most difficult part to just bring it down to something that we could translate across all the venues.
I think that was it for us, wasn't it? It was actually figuring out where to start. This tool is so powerful. You can create a rule for anything that you can observe on a player, which is pretty phenomenal when you think about it. And then that can be used to trigger a message to a host, a machine message, or send an SMS. That is enormous. So it was really about, we just got to start somewhere, and that was the fun part. And also trying, as you say, Marianne, trying to find something that was of value across a section of venue types and locations. And I think we definitely hit on that. And for those of you that haven't read the case study notes, you can contact any of us, which we will send over to you. And it really details the sorts of things that we looked at. And there were some really surprising outcomes, but it was just, it's so big. Where do we begin?
Yes.
And once we defined that, we were absolutely off and running. And that's really what you need, a partner sometimes to look over the top of your business, because sometimes, and Terry, you mentioned that you've got the fun police. Sometimes it's great to have someone else actually go and fight that battle with you, because they're armed with other information, a holistic view, a view of your competitors, all of that sort of stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. So coming to this, and Brad, feel free for jumping as well. What were the metrics, Marianne, that we decided to test, and why did we choose those ones?
Well, without giving too many secrets away.
No.
Look, the one common thing that everyone had was obviously a tiering program, which in itself had the already self-defined members in your business. So the lower tiers, the mid tiers, the high tiers, they were already proportionally done to the club's membership and the club spend. So for us, that was a no-brainer way to start, and then to start looking at rewards and incentives that were proportionate to those people. So there's no point trying to give a low visit, low spend person, a bracket of $2,000 to hit in a day, because it's never going to happen. So being able to segment that and then trying the different rewards. So we had some A/B testing in there. So one week a low tier member would get a voucher, and the next week they'd get points on the card. And we went to have a look to see about the delivery mechanisms, as you said, and the redemption rates around that.
Absolutely. And Jamie, you touched on this before. One of the things that Impact Data was really keen to see as part of this program, it's one of the great things about it, Brad, is the ability to actually target a customer who has put a card in the machine, but we're missing some really critical details. We don't have their email or their mobile phone number or some other information piece that actually has value, beyond just playing the machine. It might be that we can target them, more effectively via SMS or whatever it is. And we were really thrilled to see the increase in contactability as one of the measures that we tested. And I think, Brad, it was quite a few percent in the first week, wasn't it, that people updated their details?
Yes, it was something it was like all the results that came back from this trial were surprising. The biggest one that we got and the feedback that I received was the amount of people wanting to get involved, asking how to get involved. And then once they'd asked those couple of key questions, saying, I better update my email, or here's a new phone number, or whatever it might have been, there was a large number of surprises right across the board, where to a certain extent we were scratching our heads going, this is much better than we thought. But it's going around to something that when you've got a program, and when I say a program, I'm not so much here talking about PredIGT itself. I'm talking about something that's been organised with the metrics that you've got in place, with the programs that you've decided for each tier level, as an example, and the training of the staff. When you put all these things together and you've got something where you've got a couple of rewards and a number of things that are tailored to the players that you've got, you then start to generally get pretty good results back. When I say pretty good results, I'm not just talking about increased turnover or increased visitation, increased contactability and increased engagement with your membership base. And it's one of the things that we sometimes forget. And one of the most influential general managers that I worked for, let me say how old I am, a long time ago, his main idea that he always tried to beat into me was that we're here to increase our membership base. And breaking all this down in terms of what this means for a venue is we're talking about increased contactability and increased exposure to the venue, which is then something where if it comes into the player's head, I want to go out tonight, where do I want to go? And you've got venue A, which is doing what they've always done for the last 15, 20 years, or venue B, which has been doing programs which have been tailored to that player. It's got to be a 90% success rate that you're going to get those players come back to the venue that's put in the extra yards and has done something that's rewarded the players. And the results clearly show that.
Absolutely. I mean, it is the holy grail, isn't it, where you actually increase the value of your database and engagement, and you got more revenue as a result of that. And you probably engage players that hadn't been engaged before. And one of the things coming, through this post-pandemic era that we're going to come through is the value of your database is more important than it's ever been before. And if you can't contact a significant proportion and you're just waiting on them to walk in the door, you can't influence them coming to you, then you're at a worse position than the venue down the road who can contact the majority of their patrons. So, you know, if you haven't thought about that as a metric before, contactability of your database is really important, because we're not in the real estate game, guys. We don't just open the doors and hope people come in anymore, right? We actually have to engage them, have a relationship with them, and remind them why Club Rivers or Cherry Street are the place that they should be spending their time and money. So let's move on. This is my favourite question, and I've got to say. And so I might start with you this time, Terry. What was the thing that surprised you most about how the trial worked?
Look, to be honest, how quickly we've seen results. It was incredible. You know, the stuff Marianne was telling me before this started, and you know, I'm thinking, oh yeah, okay, you know, this will be good, and you know, yeah, it'll I think if Marianne's talking it up, it'll go okay. The results we've seen were just phenomenal, so much so that we even had to adjust how it was going throughout the weeks just to keep to our budgets. The take-up rate was incredible. It got everybody talking instantly in our venue.
That's amazing. And Jamie, what about you? What was the most surprising thing?
I think it was the amount of depth that you can get out of the IGT system when you know what you're doing with it. Like I said, we do some pretty basic DPR stuff that we're almost self-taught here, trying to get certain triggers to hit and getting more information on players and all that sort of stuff. It's not until you sit back and let someone who actually knows what they're doing, who's much smarter than you, go through it, you go, it's actually pretty good. There's like a lot of stuff in here that we never would have found. And you can dedicate 40, 60, 80 hours a month, whatever it is, to trying to do that. And you'll never be able to pull it out as someone that does it. And like a Ben Dixon from IGT is a great example. Like, he could sit down and talk to me for 5 hours. Within 10 minutes, the wheels are spinning in my head because he's so much smarter than I am. We just get someone to go, hey, this is what you can do and this is how it can work. And as long as you're, like I said, you're willing to put the time in to back them up and spend the money, and the results speak for themselves every time. And you can tweak it as you go. Like Brad was saying, if you start getting concerned about budgetary requirements or you want to throw more at it or dial it back, it's all instant. Like, and we've had to change ours because obviously how we're trading now, pre-COVID, last year and current date is all totally different. So you can do it based on trade. You're not committed to any spend, but also if you do happen to be having the wheels turning quite well, you can chip a little bit more at it. Or if there's that one tier you've noticed has dropped off because in general, high tier players go to one venue because they have to sustain their rank. Whereas those mid-range players are the ones that float and don't have much loyalty to one venue. So you can try and tweak those 1 month and target them. The next month you go, oh, we haven't seen some of these big guys since we were open. Let's have a go at one of them. It's just when you get into it and there's people that know what they're doing, it's so easy to work with.
Yeah, I think that is very true. And Brad, what was the thing that surprised you the most?
Just the response, the immediate response from the players.
Yeah.
Like Terry said before, how quick it was with the uptake. I thought, oh, there's going to be at least a couple of weeks here. Maybe by the end of the first 2-3 weeks, we might be getting some sort of idea. Everything I saw, it was the first couple of days, the first week, it was on. And players getting involved and giving you feedback. Because let's face it, many things that we've done over the years, we're searching for people to try and give us feedback. We're trying to get the feedback to come back to us. Whereas this within the venue, what we saw was feedback almost instantaneously. So not expected. I didn't expect it to come back that quick. So for me, it was how quickly we got the results, or you got the results, that was the most surprising.
And Marianne, what about you?
Yeah, I have to echo those sentiments. Like, I remember getting phone calls from Terry, phone calls from the boys at Rivers going, is it just us? Is it just us? What's everyone else doing? It can't be right. Can you send me some data? You need to tell me. I've got a board meeting and I've got to prove that this is what's happening. So I just remember those early days and I'm going, oh my goodness. And it was the metrics across everything. So we're talking carded turnover, we're talking visitations, we're talking average bet, and we're talking time in venue. Like, all those 4 things were exponentially up throughout the whole tiers. And in particular, those middle tiers that, like Jamie was saying, are the ones that get missed. You have your hosts who know your new play, your big players. You have people who know like the new people, but it's those people that come in once a week, once a month, that slip through the cracks. They're the ones that absolutely responded like crazy to these campaigns.
And
from a tiering perspective, like that, the whole way a tiering program works is that the top end's generally a lot heavier than the middle or the lower end. So even for us, we're looking at our program at the moment, and most programs would be the same. But if you come in and start playing with your card, regardless of how often you're in or how high your turnover is, it's hard to get to the levels where you feel like you're getting rewarded. Whereas this program cuts that out of it, because you don't have to be any sort of tier level, but you can get an instant reward based on certain metrics that you're going to hit. So it cuts that gap out. Like, it's very hard if you're not a loyal player. If you go to 3 or 4 venues, it's hard to get to the higher tiers, like I said, where you feel the meat of the program is, whereas this cuts all that out.
I think that was what surprised me the most as well, Jamie, is how, I mean, I'm ex-Tabcorp. I know patrons have, you know, that in Vic, we call it, we have a 5K radius. We'll go to 3 or 4 venues, you know. What it surprised me the most was how engaged people were really, really quickly. As you say, word of mouth, you know, people started opening communications, getting on board. But really the tiers that responded, it was, you know, I suspect our better players have an expectation that, you know, they're going to be looked after and they're going to be rewarded. Those lower tiers that may get a lot less, we're just like, oh, you've noticed me. I'm here, you know, and I think that was a really pleasing result. And what that means is potentially you don't have to put as much work into those other tiers, because you could look at a one-to-one program that's going to be much more successful than actually, you know, trying to perhaps manufacture those lower tier programs.
Yeah, that mid tier for us was really surprising. We know we've got 2 or 3 venues in town, and all our members are co-members of other clubs, and to see that big increase in that mid tier was really exciting for us. It's, as you say, it's that, oh wow, we've been noticed. You know, we've got something, and it doesn't have to be something big, but they feel like they've been recognised for coming to the venue, and it was huge for us.
Look, I say this, so we at Impact Data, we put all of our visits into one big, what we call visit store, and we analyse customer behaviour. And we know that about 80% of customers across the board, all industries, don't come back a second time, right? Now, you know, when you've got a loyalty program, that obviously differs a lot. But the most of the reason is because no one asked me. No one asked me for that second date. You know, just ask me. I might come back if you remembered me, you know. And so I think what this tool and this partnership gives you is that ability to make sure that someone's looking after those people that don't necessarily come up on your radar, but actually, if you get them, you know, the vast majority of them contribute enormously to your bottom line. So I think that was the thing that surprised me the most. I might start this one with you, Marianne. What elements do you think a venue needs for success?
Definitely a clear target, clear budget. The one question that you could ask yourself 5 times before setting up a DPR is, what am I trying to achieve? So before I sit there and say, okay, well, what am I going to do and what am I going to reward? The question you have to ask yourself is, what outcome are you looking for? What are you trying to do? What gap analysis have you done, and what market are you engaging, which will lead you to the questions of how it should be done, the frequency, and the reward on tap. So
yeah, absolutely. Brad, what about you? From a technical or any other point of view, what elements do you think venues need for success?
I'm probably just following on from Marianne, but it's a question for each venue of being prepared. To a certain extent, we all know our players, and sometimes we don't know our players as well as we think we do. But it's having that preparation where whether it's you have your tiered program set up correctly already, or whatever the metric is. But when you're looking to extend it, you've really got to be on top of what your tiers are, what your players are, who's coming in. And as Terry was saying before, one of the sectors that we quite often forget about is not so much that top player, it's that middle player, that middle level player that might come in every X and isn't going to quickly come up into one of the top tiers. Being able to capture those players is all a direct result of the preparation that you'll put in to your basic rewards program, and then to the elements you're going to put into a successful marketing campaign. Those will feed on one to the next, and that's when you'll pick up those players that perhaps you've been only getting every now and again, and you're going to be trying to attract those players a lot more often.
Absolutely. Terry, would you have any other thoughts on what elements for success?
Look, I think the success for us was, a lot of the parameters around this program is things that us as managers have always wanted to achieve. Next month we'll have a look at this and we'll try and introduce this, and one thing or the other comes up. I think the beauty of this whole system is saying Marianne, this is what I want to achieve. Now go do it.
No pressure.
It's made our life so much easier. So I think the elements of that is just us being able to handball it to a third party like Buzz Consultants has just been the best thing for us. It's been great.
Fantastic. And Jamie?
I think you just got to drive it. You get out what you put in. It's like an old Nutrigrain commercial. I use that way too often, but you really have to put the effort in, be willing to spend, but not so much the money. The money's here or there. Like Terry said, it's not about giving something to someone and at a mid or to lower tier level that they feel like they've got some sort of a crazy value out of the place. It's about recognition, and it's about baby steps in that respect. You can't take someone from 2 visits a week to 7. But if you take them from 8 visits a month to 9, then to 10, that's where you win the battle. But you've got to, as I said, have the time to drive it and put the effort in to recognize those players and just make sure that you are giving them that recognition, whether it's from the frontline staff, whether it's from the program, and then making sure everyone can see the value in it without having a big dollar sign over it. That makes sense.
Yeah. Look, I completely agree. I think the things from our perspective is you need a tech stack that works together. So, your loyalty system, your business intelligence system, your point of sale system, your communications partner like us, it actually all needs to work seamlessly because that's what builds confidence in your staff, which you both pointed on, which I think is absolutely critical. And one of the things I say to so many of our venue partners is, can you please add your staff as a segment in your database and tell them about all the stuff you tell your members about first? Because we forget to do that. So I think that's really one of the things that I would really encourage any business thinking about their customer engagement strategy. Your number one stakeholder, ask Richard Branson, is your staff. So if they don't feel that they're part of the success of this program or they have had, at least awareness of it, then they're going to push back. They're going to be, as you said, Jamie, they come up with that QR code on the Nokia brick and they're just going to go, oh, I don't know, I don't care. You know what I mean? So they they have to have a vested interest in your customer engagement strategy, regardless of whether you're using PredIGT or not. Your staff are, I think, absolutely critical, and having that engagement across your management team to make sure that the staff are involved, I think, is the difference between a good program and a really good program. So, Marianne, this is a question just for you, really.
Yes, it is.
All of this came together, and now we have a new product, which is called Buzz. So tell us about Buzz Connect.
Well, Buzz Connect is really leveraging the power of the PredIGT, the scannability of QR codes from any of the major POSs that you said, the communications platform being Impact Data. And the last thing we were really missing was the BI tool, because basically we were drowning in analysis and reporting and trying to put everything together from these hot phone calls from all these clients going, you got to prove to my board that this is what's working. So we're really, really excited to now have a BI component, which is really smart because it closes the gap, because not only can it report on the campaigns and the vouchers, but it can also write back to Impact Data. So we can sit there and we can create your market segment. So your player, I want to know who comes in on a Tuesday between this time and spends this much money or visits at the POS. We can create those people and then tag them in Impact Data and send out a communication or enroll them in IGT as a group to then trigger a PredIGT campaign as well. So we've really just closed the circle on that little gap, and we couldn't be more excited.
I think that's really critical, isn't it? BI has been the missing link for many of us, because what it gives us is speed to market. Yes. Because, one of the great things about this program, Brad, and, feel free to jump in, is it is so flexible and dynamic, but you have to have the information at your fingertips to take advantage of that. And, having to sit and run daily reports and things like that, is time consuming. And Jamie, you mentioned this before, having the analytical skills to jump in and dive in and slice and dice. Working with the right BI tool and hopefully the right engagement partner in Marianne actually does that for you and allows you to be nimble. I mean, the one thing that we've all had to do over the last 6 months is change the way we do business, because, we've been open, we've been closed, we're closed again in Victoria. All of these things have meant we have to be much more responsive and quick to market. And I think really putting this whole stack together gives a venue a distinct competitive advantage. Brad, would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's about having the being able to get through the whole cake and having all those layers there. One of the things, and we've all, over the years within the club industry and everything that we've done, there's always been a missing element to a lot of things that we've done. And one of the things that has stood out for some time is that, and this is something where it's interesting now because I do have a lot of engagement with the North American casino market, and it's quite different because sometimes I get that feedback from large casino properties overseas. They say, oh, just the IT department could look after that. Why do these people do these sort of tasks, so on and so forth? Well, when you've got 2,000-3,000 machines, it's a different beast to what you're looking at the club and pub level in New South Wales. So it's where you then become very specialised in what you do. And that's where Buzz and Impact Data in particular have pulled all these disparate elements together. So we're talking about the management who know what they want, know what the goal is. And it's the question of how did we make this happen? Then you've got the knowledge of Buzz and Impact Data to be able to say, okay, here's an idea. Then you've got the database and the system that is Advantage Club and what it can do. You start to pull all those pieces together and make those into a layer cake. All of a sudden, this starts to come together. And an interesting side effect from what we've done is these results that we had from the trial, this has been fed back over to some of our colleagues over in the States. And they're just saying, wow, we haven't seen business intelligence tools that have been developed for casinos specific to the needs of properties that are quite getting these sort of results. So it's sometimes interesting that from the New South Wales pub and club perspective, or the New South Wales market perspective, what we're getting is some very clever people that have come together with all these different tools, and they've been able to make something which is essentially world class. And it's world class because of the results you're getting, and that's the bottom line.
Absolutely. And I think, just having that business intelligence tool, one thing I would suggest as a marketer, don't leave it to the IT department, right? It's your tool.
Yes.
Don't let the IT department dictate what reports you get, because it's your insight into your customers. And so it's great, you can give financial reports out of it and whatever, but it's your tool to have control of and to interrogate with your engagement partner, because that is where you will find the opportunity in your business.
Definitely. And just one more point on that, Sarah, what we're realizing too, when I've started speaking with Jamie about this, is that here we have a whole heap of different reporting opportunities, but it's asking them, well, what's more important in you? What's the metrics that you like to look at? Because I could create a report for Jamie about stuff that he wants to look at, but his boss's dashboard would be completely different. And it's going to be completely different to what Terry cares about, because his directors want to look at one particular metric. So it's really good to be able to have a dashboard report that we can send to everyone about campaigns, but then more importantly, tailored to how they need to run their business.
Absolutely. And I think the other part of it when you add BI is you get to see the behavior of your campaigns across your whole venue, right? Often we might have just measured what they spent on the POS or gaming. Now we actually see their whole relationship and how valuable that customer is. And I'm sure, gents, you would have found some nuggets when you look at that patron and go, oh, I had no idea that they were only drinking top shelf, and they're drinking really high margin stuff. Happy days, more of them. Is that one of the insights that you're looking for with business intelligence?
Yeah.
How much? Oh, here you go.
Sorry, go Terry.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for that bit of an edge, and it is surprising what you get out of the BI tool. Some of those things that you didn't realise that your punter was eating or drinking, or machines they played, or how many times they visited and what time they visited. Well, we can only be in our business for so many hours a day. So surprisingly, seeing them come in at all different hours is one of those things that's come out of that as well. So yeah,
that's interesting. And Jamie?
Yeah, we had a pretty similar experience. It's more about looking at just same thing, patterns of behaviour from people that you wouldn't expect. Like if someone's gaming plays dropped off for a couple of days, then you look and they've had 10 meals put on their card because they're in here with their family having dinner twice a week over a weekend, had birthdays and stuff, then you can approach them not so much to get their gaming play back on track, but just to go, hey, just so you know, next time you come in, if you've got a booking of 10 people, I'm happy to work something out with you where we can do a couple of jugs of soft drink if you want decorations, all that sort of stuff. And they sort of sit back and go, oh, geez, that's pretty sweet. Not like you're watching what I'm doing. It's like they'd expect you to come up and go, hey, you haven't been playing machines. Where's all this turnover? Get your family out of here and get back on the pokies. Where it's like, no, you go the other way and go, hey, next time you're having dinner, I'll hook you up a couple of jugs of soft drink. Is it for your kid's birthday? We'll do some balloons.
Yeah.
And automatically they just get a real sense of engagement going, hey, these guys actually are looking out for me and want to give me, I don't know, it's not even a big deal. It costs you nothing. It's just more your time to go and talk to them, and it gives you something to address them about. You may not have spoken to this person for any other reason in the last 2 or 3 months. This time, as a manager, it gives you the opportunity to go, hey, next time you see this person, go and engage with them and just have a chat to them. And half the time it doesn't work. Half the time they don't want a bar of it. They just thought, oh, no, I don't want anything to do with that. But half the time that it does, it just outweighs everything else that you've done. You can't get that impact with anything else.
We really found that with our BI tool when we had our rewards nights. Tailoring, instead of tailoring a gift to everybody or each tier, we tailored them to suit on what they drank or what they ate, and that was nearly 12 months ago now, and I still get these members coming up to me just blown away that we pick their favourite bottle of scotch or their favourite meal or their favourite movie, or just incredible the data you can get.
Absolutely. It allows you to have a really three-dimensional understanding of your customers, right? That's the value. And that's not scalable without a BI tool. In the old days, the pub manager or whatever, he knew every person who sat on the bar stool, right? And he knew their life story, knew what they did for a living, knew their missus's name, knew what they drank. He would put their beer in front of them. We can't do that. You've got 200 machines, Jamie. That's just not scalable in the modern venue. So what a fully integrated program like Buzz Connect gives you is all of those tools to replicate what your publican used to be able to do for the 5 blokes in the front bar. All right, and that gives you scale. So I think that's a really exciting part. It is COVID, so we had to put a quick question in here about this landscape. What is relevant to venues right now that this type of program can pick out for you? Jamie, I might start with you quickly.
For us, it's more about trying to understand where people are and why people's behaviours changed. So it's not so much about getting extra engagement and all that sort of thing at the moment, because a lot of our older demographic clients, like I said, we've spoken to them directly, not because of trying to figure out how come they haven't been coming in and playing. We just check on them. And a lot of people aren't coming out because of things like COVID, and they're worried about social distancing, and they're worried about catching it, and their doctors are telling them, look, if you go out and get this, you're going to be really sick. So it's more about just keeping in touch with them and preparing them for when you do decide to come back and when everything's safe. Your tiering stuff's going to be fine. We're not going to demote you. It's all good. Don't stress. This will be here. When you do decide to come back, let us know, and we can give you a couple of dinner vouchers, or we can take care of you. Or is there anything else we can do for you while you're not here? But at the same time, the biggest thing we're having is, in our venue in particular, we have to have everyone be members at the moment. So as part of our entry condition is you join up and you swipe your card. So we've got something in the ballpark of 400% increase in membership because of making everyone join. So we're getting people that haven't never had any issues in joining, coming in and joining. And then now they've got that first touch point of engagement to go, hey, did you know if you play with your card, you can get this? Did you know that even as a lower tier member, if you hit certain thresholds, you can get this? And it's a really, really good way to encourage people to use their card. We haven't seen much of an increase in carded play. We have been driving it, not overly, because we've been sort of respectful of everyone having to join now. You don't want to force the issue on some people. But the next thing for us is we've got all these extra people where every single person that comes in has a card. So as long as every single person comes in that has a card, understands the benefits that a program like this can offer them, we've done our job. If they choose not to play with their card, you're never going to change that. But it's more about giving them that first initial contact of going, the reason you've never been a member is because you might have 55 other cards in your wallet like everyone does. Yeah. So but if you come to our joint and you put your card in, you hit one threshold, and you get that one reward, I'll tell you what, I'd go, it'd get me for a free VB somewhere. It always has. If they send me a thing going, it cost me 500, but I got a free schooner, I'm like, I got them, I'm going back. So stuff like that. It's like a two-pronged attack. We still get to see the stuff from people that we haven't seen. It gives us a touch point to go, hey, where have you been? Are you okay? Is there anything you need from us? All right, cool. See you when you get back. How's everything going? And then on the other side, it's you've got 100% membership in your venue at the moment. So you got to really try and attack that as hard as you can to get people to understand it. And again, once they understand it, if they choose not to partake in it, totally up to them.
Yep. Good leverage. What about you, Terry?
Yeah, look, we're the same. We used it, our membership database extremely well through COVID closure, making sure we keep in contact with our members, keep them engaged. It's something that I sold to my board straight from the get-go. We're a member-based club, and a database is so crucial to us. So keeping in contact with them, and now that we're back open, obviously it's a whole different world to what it was before we closed down. So, all our gaming promotions have been, normal traditional gaming promotions have been put on hold. This gives us the opportunity to still be able to engage with our members out on the gaming floor by offering the QR codes. And so we've seen a bigger take-up rate since we've reopened to when we were closed, because it's really the only promotion we're doing, but we're also using it significantly moving forward for member engagement, just keeping our members informed of current situations and what the health factor is, and keep them up to date with what's coming back in and what's not coming back in. And so it's been really good in that regard.
That's great. And Brad, what about your view of what sort of program is relevant to venues right now?
I think where we've come from with the changes from COVID, what we're seeing is we've got venues that have communicated and engaged with their membership base quite well. And those I think what it's going to come down to is we don't really know where the new normal is going to be just yet. I think it's going to be October to December is where we're going to find that out. And what we're going to see now from this landscape and the unstable climate is that the venues that have done a good job since reopening in June are the ones that are going to have a much better time of getting through the new normal when that lands. So there is different variables, and I've spoken to a lot of different venue managers in a lot of different areas, and there's all sorts of results that are all over the place for various reasons in some cases. But it's been no mistake that the vast majority of people that have been successful recently have done a good job over the recent history with a lot of their players. And what will then play itself out, I think that the phrase is when the tide goes out, well, the tide will probably go out sometime towards the later part of this year. And I think the results will be clearly demonstrated that the venues that have done a good job of engaging with their membership base are the ones that are going to get through that phase quite well.
And Marianne?
I think Terry touched on it before in terms of your traditional gaming promotions are all on hold at the moment because we can't really advertise for a whole heap of people to be in your gaming room because of social distancing. So, that whole theory of getting everyone at the end of a busy time or trying to pop up a slow time just doesn't really work anymore. So the big thing is with a promotion like this, members are really running their own race, and they get to come and be rewarded for the times that they come in and for what they do within their tiers or within the thresholds that are set up. So it's no longer, I can't make the club on a Friday afternoon when that promotion's on. It's they're always running a constant promotion, and that's the way we're trying to start to sell it. It's like it is the promotion that is ongoing, and anytime that you use your card within the venue, you could trigger one of these rewards.
It's much more about surprise and delight, which is an untapped opportunity in customer engagement programs, isn't it, Marianne?
Oh, definitely.
We do so much, reward for certain behaviour and whatever. You know what? Every time you surprise someone, they're delighted.
Exactly. I know that there's no bad surprise and delight in this sort of thing. And I think the big thing is too that no matter what they're doing in venue, whether they're playing a machine or eating a meal, when the reward comes, it comes to their device via SMS or email. So you're not stopping them from doing what they're doing because they have a look, they go, oh, wow, that's a reward that I can use now or I can use later. And then they continue to do what they're doing. So if they're in the gaming room, we're not stopping that flow of play. They're still in there. They've still got the reward and they go, oh, wow, there's a dinner voucher. I can come in tomorrow night with the family and use that. And then they keep playing. So they're very comfortable with their own technology. And the upside to that is that the venue doesn't have to invest in that technology because the end user does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the short answer is it is more important to engage with your patrons than it has ever been before. Because if you're not, your competitors are. All right. Around the grounds for any last tips that anyone would like to share. I'll start with you, Brad. I think your voice is probably running out, you poor thing.
Oh, these cups of tea have been quite helpful. My tip for just about any venue manager is to have someone, a trusted advisor of some description that you can call. And I think it goes for clubs of all size. So there's a whole lot, like we've been discussing here, the whole crux of this conversation has been to make sure that you've got someone that you can go to, that you can get to look at what you're doing, whether it be with, and mostly with promotions and your membership rewards and what you're doing with your marketing. I think it's crucial for venue managers who have a number of things on their agendas and on their plates, and a lot of technology that they've got to look at. I think it's most important for them to make sure that they've got somebody that's a trusted advisor that they can use to help further their goals in terms of retaining, delighting, and maintaining or increasing their revenue.
Absolutely. And Jamie?
I think it's just a matter of having a crack, try something else. Like with COVID, things proved to everyone that you've got to like think outside the box. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things, like what Brad was saying, you're not doing gaming promos, or some venues are, some venues aren't. There's no knowing when you're going to be able to do a raffle or a badge draw. And a lot of clubs that aren't doing those sort of things are having better financial results now than they ever have. So those sort of things might be a thing of the past. They could be now, you move everything into a DPR promo for all members. Everything could be online. Like you could stream your raffles from inside the venue to different areas in the venue, so everyone doesn't have to be together. So all this sort of stuff and technology moving forward, as long as you can try it and have a crack, there's no risk to it. If something sticks and it's a success, like everything, like all this stuff we've done with Buzz and the DPR stuff has been, it's stuck for us, and we'll be using it for the foreseeable future because it just stuck and it works well. So you don't know until you've had a crack at it.
Great advice. Terry?
Yeah, absolutely. Have a crack. It seems to be the slogan and stuff. So we had a crack a few years ago and put an ice skating rink on a bowling green, but that was having a crack. But look, I would say using somebody like Marianne to have any idea, any crazy ideas that you have, give them to Marianne and say, this is what I want to achieve. Go to it, and it enables you to then think of the next crazy idea to have a crack at. So that'd be my bit of advice.
Great advice. And Marianne, what's your last tips that you'd like to share?
No, I love the idea that I work with two of the craziest boys here in terms of thinking outside the box. Like, I love it when people challenge me. They go, Marianne, you've got to figure out a way to do this. We have great relationships with IGT. It's either Brad or Ben Dixon that I'll call, and I've gone, okay, I've got this group of people. How do I do this? Run me through it. There's always a way that we can get this crazy idea off the ground. So never ever stop thinking about what's next or who I want to target and how I want to do it, because I guarantee you we'll find a way.
Okay, good. So my last tip is make sure you can get data out of all your systems. Whether it's your guest Wi-Fi, whether it's your loyalty system, whether it's your restaurant booking system, whatever it is, get your data out, because there's value in all of those systems, and make sure your partners play nicely. Make sure that they can all integrate together, or you've got someone who can do that work for you, because you'd be staggered at how many nuggets of value are hiding in systems that you don't even know about. So that would be my one last tip. Get everyone playing on the same page, making you successful. And I think you mentioned this, Jamie, get other people to make you look good, right? That's what your vendors should be for. If they're not playing nicely together, then they're not helping you manage up, which is what we're here to do. so definitely that. So I'd like to thank you everyone for some real candor from the venues, and that's wonderful to share that sort of information with your peers. And this recorded interview will be available to a whole lot of people in this industry. We have the results of the trial, so you feel free, anyone who's watching this can get in touch with, just email either Marianne or myself, hello@impactdata or .com.au, or marianne@buzzconsultants.com.au. There'll be, available to read a little bit more detail about it, and I'm sure Brad would be happy to take a call from a venue to talk through it as well. Huge thanks to everyone for sharing their expertise. This is one of the most exciting programs I've been part of in gaming for a very, very long time, and I think we all learned something, which I don't know that we can always say sometimes when we do a marketing exercise. So that's been great. And most importantly, we engaged our patrons, and that's really where PredIGT came to life. And I think that's the journey that all businesses should be on. And hopefully they've got a partner like IGT that's giving them a system to do that. So you click through the last of these slides and you can learn more about our panel, and you can hear more from any of those guys. I'm sure they'd love to chat to you. But thank you everyone for participating and sharing, and good luck, Terry and Jamie, with the continued exploration of PredIGT. So thanks.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, guys.